by for Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors with your host, Drew Kirby.
Hey, this is Luke Combs.
I am Morgan Wallen.
I'm Riley Green.
I'm Travis Denning.
Hey, I'm Aaron Lewis.
Hey, it's Luke Bryan.
I'm Tim McGraw.
What's up? This is Ian Munsick.
Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors.
Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors is back on your radio and on demand 24/7 in the radio station's app. All you do, click the on demand button, and you can listen to all of our 4 different seasons that we have gone through on this program, which, gosh, Janet, we've got to be somewhere near 300 for the episodes.
I can't count, but I'm super happy today because we came up with a new idea.
Yeah.
One of the things that we continually talk about is the angling opportunities in the Casper region and kind of around the state. We do oftentimes dabble a little outside of our comfort zone of our big reservoirs in our North Platte River. And I hope to do that a little bit today as well. Yeah,
we are bringing in Kevin. We met Kevin last week, and we didn't really get into Kevin's job or what Kevin does, but the science that goes into Wyoming Game and Fish is extraordinary. There's so many different levels, and we're up at the higher base now because not only are we working with the fisheries, but this gets involved with the University of Wyoming and then just spreads all throughout the state.
I've been working with Kevin. I guess we probably both started 25 years ago in the agency. And it's been kind of neat to follow his career and kind of watch the changes that have happened to him as a fisheries biologist as he's moved through different positions. And I'll let Kevin talk a little bit more about that. But it really is pretty fantastic to see the relationships that we have with different organizations and groups across the state, and the information that we can continue to learn from each other.
Kevin, I do appreciate you being on the show. I know you're busy and you're traveling around for meetings and whatnot, but I think it's important that people realize that it's not just an out-of-the-box, on a whim type of situation that the science is used for game and fish. We were talking about the fish scarring and how, you guys at the upper levels were like, okay, we need to take this information and run it the rest of the state. And how do you decide? I mean, it's got to be a tough decision on what you're going to focus in on.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Some of there's a lot of great work that our biologists do for us throughout the state to manage our fisheries, but sometimes there's bigger questions that they don't have the time or the resources to tackle. And so what we do is we have people submit ideas for research projects every year, and we kind of boil them down to the highest priorities and find researchers that can help with those projects. Oftentimes, those researchers are professors at the University of Wyoming, but sometimes they don't even have the expertise to answer some of these questions. So we've funded graduate research projects at CSU in Colorado, as well as universities in Montana, Idaho, and just recently we funded a project with the University of Illinois even.
So really the limits of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department are limitless, just so that we can continue to have some of the best fisheries in the entire nation.
I don't know if limitless is the word. We are limited by funding, of course. So we have to take these projects and really think hard about which ones are the highest priorities and which ones we can get the biggest bang for our buck on.
As Janet mentioned, you guys have been in the agency for a long time now, and over the 25 plus years, I'm sure you've seen lots of change in the way things are handled. And I know even on like the North Platte, the flushing flows, it wasn't a thing before 95. So, I know that a lot of research and science goes into every move that's made in the last, quarter century.
Yeah. Interestingly about the North Platte fishery, I was telling Matt, when I started in 1996, and one of my jobs was to calculate population estimates on those major fisheries. I think it was around 98 that I calculated the North Platte estimates and thought I made a mistake. those numbers were astronomically high. And it turned out those were real numbers, and they matched up with past population levels when the river was in good shape. And I'd say that I can't take credit for that. I just looked at the numbers, but it was the biologists before me that figured out what flows could maintain a quality fishery in the North Platte River below Gray Reef. And what they came up with worked, and we've been able to enjoy the benefits of all that great science in the past.
And Matt Hahn is here as well. And Matt, you've had a big hand on the ground. Like he was just saying, the biologists have to be on the ground. And how do you go about presenting, your thoughts up to the higher levels? And what do you, what jobs do you take into consideration when you're passing that information along?
Yeah, so every year we write an annual report that summarizes everything we did in the region, all the sites we sampled. We do our data analysis, we interpret the results, and we come up with management recommendations. And those are all reviewed by Kevin and other people at the administrative level in Cheyenne. And we use that information to formulate a work schedule, which is what we're going to do the next year. And so sometimes, we look at something one place and it leads us to another question about that place. So then we'll, in our work schedule, say, okay, well, now we're going to go back and look at that. And so we, understanding that we only have so much time in a field season, and we have 2 biologists, a supervisor, and a couple of seasonals. So we obviously can't do everything that we want to do in a year. And, like Kevin's job is sort of to kind of scrutinize what it is that we're planning to do and maybe suggest that we cut some stuff out if it doesn't, if it looks like we're trying to overstretch ourselves. They'll kind of keep us reined in a little bit. I don't know that we've ever had the problem with any crew in this state not having enough on their work schedule. It's usually about 3 times more work than anybody could reasonably get done. So we do have to trim some stuff sometimes, and that's sort of where our interactions with administration really kind of guide that.
And it's pretty interesting, Drew, to kind of sit back and watch some of these things take shape. You got Matt out in the field doing a lot of the work, and Jeff and Nick as well, seeing these things on the ground, along with all the biologists across the state. They come up with these things that they want to do, and they present it to administration. And then they come back from work schedule and they're like, oh, gosh, admin had this fantastic idea to do a study based on this. Let's see if we can get funding and possibly a grad student. And then the collaboration, like with the universities or different organizations, really start to take shape. And that's really fun. So, we've talked a little bit in the past about the fish scarring, the hook scarring injuries that are going on the North Platte. And while Jeff was fantastic and really took that upon himself to develop how to do that because other people in the country hadn't done it, oftentimes we can look to other people to do that, like we've talked about. And so Kevin and those guys come back with these great ideas. And I know over, Kevin's career, he in his position has seen so many things change from, really being like he talked about doing the populations on the North Platte to now. What do you guys see coming through the door, Kevin?
Yeah, I guess when I started with the department, my attraction was to do great sport fish management work throughout the state. But about 20 years ago, it turned out that some federal money became available that we could actually do more work with those species that people don't hunt and fish for. These funds mainly came in the form of what's called state wildlife grants. And a lot of people don't know, but the Wyoming Game and Fish is not just charged with managing the fish and wildlife that people fish for or hunt for, but they also were charged with managing all wildlife in the state. And those new funding sources made it possible that we could do more work with those lesser known species. And it's important to note that we're not necessarily using anglers or licensed dollars to do this work. This funding's coming from other sources and allowed us to continue to do the great sport fish management that we do, but also to work with things like amphibians, reptiles, and non-game fish. Also with we were able to work with freshwater mussels and crayfish even.
So really, it's been a spectacular quarter of a century that you've been in here, and you've seen a lot of different changes. You've seen a lot of different improvements, and you have to decide when it comes to these scheduling meetings, where are we going to go? How's this going to work out? And being at your position and knowing where Matt's coming from as doing the same thing at one point, is it hard for you to decide where you're going to go and where you're going to focus for a certain time period, especially with all the broad research going on?
Yeah, it can be challenging at times, but we're fortunate to have people like Matt and his crew who are willing to accept the challenges to manage these species. We can give them a hand with deciding which priorities to pursue. But crews like Matt's, they've kind of embraced this model. Instead of having people that just focus on non-game versus people that focus on sport fisheries, the administrators before me decided to make that the charge of everyone. So we don't have. So if you're a biologist working for a fisheries biologist working for game and fish, it's your job to look after not only the sport fish but the non-game species as well. And I'd say our challenge is not to get these guys to work harder, but to find ways that they can have a normal life and feel like they're making a difference for the resources of Wyoming.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being on, Kevin and Janet. Matt, as always, thank you so much. Coming up, we're heading into Glendo, where I'm with Brian Woodward for the Wyoming Walleye Stampede.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
It's Drew and Brian Woodward from Rocky Mountain Discount Sports. And Brian, it's a busy weekend with us because we're at Glendo for the Wyoming Walleye Stampede. Day number 2 is today, and it's been really cool to see the different weather patterns that we've gone through since Friday and today.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, these guys, there were some guys that were pretty diehards and got on the water pretty much every day this week. And that we're talking, we had some big wind down here and lots of rain, and conditions changed for a lot of guys. And to stay on these fish, these guys really had to work at it. And
be dressed for the occasion. And, that's one of the things that, I went through the store and I hadn't bought any, thermals in over a year. And right. So I had to get all caught up on that. And, last minute gear like that coming down here is one of those things that you guys specialize in because you've got it all right here and rain gear right as soon as you walk in the door.
Yeah, and we talked about it Friday. It's like, boy, what's the weather going to do? Because we just don't know. I mean, we've got, you still need something to break the wind, and the mornings are chilly. We're on the docks at 5 o'clock in the morning, yeah. And so you need something to break the wind and just take that cold off. But this afternoon we're going to hit 70 degrees, and we'll be back down into sweatshirt, t-shirt weather.
Yeah, right. And so being prepared, being layered up, we say that all the time. But one of those things that I also like, and we don't talk about this enough, but that's that coffee you're going to need out on the boat or whatever. You guys have the thermoses, and you have all that Yetis.
Yeah, we've got the Stanley thermoses. They're all great. Of course, the Yeti Wild Gear's got some good devices to hold that coffee as well, and. Yeah, so keeping that warm coffee in the morning certainly makes the mornings go a lot better.
And then those cold beers after you get off the water later.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wouldn't know anything about that.
I don't know anything. But, the new marina down here is fantastic. I mean, great meal on Friday night, and it's great to see some new blood and what they're doing.
And it's fun to see the confused look on their face too, because this is their biggest event yet, because they've only been open for like 12 days.
Well, and it's going to probably be their biggest event of the year anyways, right? And so you got new owners and you got 280 guys or 290 guys showing up on a Friday night for the rules meeting. They're all kind of scratching their head going, holy cow,
Yeah.
I mean, if it was like that every week for them, it'd be great. But these tournaments, I mean, they bring a lot of revenue to these communities, and especially small communities like Glendo that, these business owners are kind of, they got 4 months to make their money. And when you own something like a marina, I mean, it's a limited time, and you want to capitalize on it when you can.
And of course, when you're heading down, you can always stop into Rocky Mountain Discount Sports. Maybe you're going to wait until after the busy weekend to come down and fish, and make sure you get your minnows and your leeches and all the plastics. You guys have a whole lineup of those.
Yeah, we've like I said, we worked pretty hard at getting some of the new baits in this year. A lot of cool plastics. The Rapala Crush Cities have been really popular and seem to be working pretty good. And then of course the live bait. We've got leeches not only by the dozens, but we saw them by the half pounds. And to me, leeches almost last forever as long as you keep them cold and keep some water on them. And I love a bobber bite with a leech. You know it. We've been there.
Yeah.
And that bobber swims away from you. I mean, those leeches work great for that bite.
Well, I'll tell you, you can come in, get all the gear that you need before you head down to Glendale, or maybe you're heading over to Pathfinder. And I know that things are going to be pretty hopped up over the next couple of weeks in Alcova as people are starting to wrap up with school, and that means families are going to get out and all your camping gear right here at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports too.
Yeah, so be sure to stop in. And some of these lakes like Alcova you mentioned, we want to get the fishing in now before all the play boaters get out there, because it's a lot more comfortable being out there without fighting the wakeboarding boats and the jet skis. So and the fishing's been good out there. It's a great time to explore those. And of course Pathfinder's close by, and it tends to get a little bit better fishing as it warms up. But if you want to stay away from the crowds, Pathfinder's a place to be.
Yeah, get up there and check it out. And if you have any questions about any of these fisheries, come on in here. There are maps, there are guides, there's all kind of stuff going on here. And there are fishermen in the store that enjoy getting out right here at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
It's Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors, and we are on site this week. Again, 2 weeks in a row, Brian, we're on site. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but this week we're down at the lake at B&A Marina down at Glendo.
Yeah, so B&A just took over from Dawn and Rick, and boy, they did a good job the couple of years that they were here. But now B&A is coming in, and they're really kind of turning things over.
Yeah, they've taken out a lot of the retail space inside. They kind of shifted it around and expanded the restaurant, and they've got a great menu. But what I'm excited about is on the back patio here, they've got these little fireplaces, and you can buy a s'mores kit inside and come out here and roast your s'mores.
How cool is that? It really is. And it wasn't bad before. It's just a different view now, and that's kind of what I like with Mark and his wife, is they're kind of getting into this blind. They were like, hey, there's an opportunity here at Glendale, and let's take it. They're not fishermen. They like to go out, and they're party boat people.
Yeah, they're wakeboarders and surfers and that kind of stuff. And so this is going to be a great opportunity for them. But anytime you have a new business ownership change, I mean, it brings to a little more excitement and some new ideas and new views. And I think it's going to be great for the marina and for the people around. And they've been overly gracious in accommodating us for this tournament.
So the Wyoming Walleye Stampede in its 16th year. And this year, they have been really doing some big things, like changing things up a little bit out here. They're worried, they're concerned because they don't want to upset the group of fishermen that are coming in. And you and Mitch have been doing this here for many years now, so you guys got it down, and they're trying to accommodate it.
Yeah, Mitch and myself started this venture back in 2009. And we started off with just one tournament, and we came to Glendo for that one tournament, had 92 boats for that first event, and everybody really liked the different things that we were doing. It was kind of new blood to the tournament circuit. We've added divisions that are all sponsor-driven. We've got a family division, we've got a poor boys division, we've got a young guns division, and we have a dinosaur division. So it kind of encompasses like everybody. You know, a lot of people think that these are all like professional level fishermen, but it's just the average guy going out. And so when we started this, we wanted to make sure that we didn't exclude anybody, and wanted to make sure that, you know, if you wanted to come out with your 6-year-old kid and fish a tournament, you could do it and still be competitive.
Well, I really enjoy the fact that there are husband-wife teams that are out there. So this is Mother's Day weekend. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of mothers that are like, how'd you do that? And why'd you do that? But, you know, Mitch, you've been in there from the beginning with Brian, and I know that every year things grow and they get a little better. And have you seen a lot of growth with just the walleye fishermen and the way they go about things?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think the word COVID, everyone is familiar with, and we really kind of took off at that year. That year, we were really worried, what's this going to look like? You know, are we going to have teams show up? How are we going to do this? And I think since then, every tournament, the first 2 tournaments have been over 120 teams. This year, we got 145 at this first one, and we're almost capped at our second event, our Governor's Cup. We capped that at 140 teams, and I think we got 3 spots left maybe for that one. So
it'll be full by the end of the night.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be full by the end of the night. So it's been great. I mean, I think, you know, like Brian said, we had 90 teams at the first one, and every year since then it's just gotten bigger and better. And that Governor's Cup, I think, is you know, the next thing on the list of something we hadn't done yet that it's going to be fun.
I really enjoy that you and Brian, you're hands-on. Like, this isn't something that you put your names on and then you sit up here and drink beer and wait for the fishermen to come in. I mean, you're on weigh boats, you're out making sure that everybody is doing and happy, because being happy is part of how you bring people back in your tournaments.
I think one of the unique features of running the circuit that we're running is that we are a catch and release tournament. So these fish are not staying in live wells more than 2 hours. And Mitch and myself are roaming the lake. So we have 3 positions on the lake that are stationary, so guys always know where to find them. But if there's a bite up in Elkhorn Bay or maybe down at the dam, you know, we can focus our efforts in our boats and checking on those anglers. So we're face to face with every one of these anglers every day. And so it's really unique, because I fished a lot of tournaments across the country, and, you know, they're like, bang, here you go fish, and you don't see anybody till the end of the day. Yeah. And so there's always the questioning of, you know, whether there's people cheating and that kind of stuff. Obviously, we don't have to worry about putting weights in fish. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Because we're just doing a length to weight measurement. But, you know,
those pesky Midwesterners.
Those pesky. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of cool because, you know, we go around and we jump in their boats, we measure their fish, and we see it every time. Like, there's some anglers that are just like, after we weigh their fish, they're just hanging out and just want to sit and talk. We're like, don't you guys want to get back and start fishing? Yeah. They're like, yeah, we're good, you know. Yeah. We're like, okay, you know. And so we get to work with them on, you know, somebody might have a question about a Skeeter boat, who's our headline sponsor for this event, or a Hummingbird or a Minn Kota motor. Like, maybe they're having problems. And, you know, a lot of times we're just like, yeah, do this, do that, and boom, they're back on their way.
Yeah, we had one, I remember about 5-10 years ago, we had a guy who didn't know how to throw a slip bobber. And after we weighed his fish, Brian tied up 2 slip bobber rods for him and gave them back to him. It was comical. I mean, it's really enjoyable. It's camaraderie for us as well. It's not camaraderie just for our anglers. I mean, these guys become a big family over 16 years. You know, we know a lot of them, and there's a lot of new faces this year. But yeah, there's a lot of enjoyment being on the water instead of just sitting in a hotel room or drinking coffee up here and waiting for them to come back.
So one of the things that I know is that Bellwood Boats and Skeeter and Crowley Marine, who are all big sponsors, they fish the event. Like, they're here because they want to be part of this. And that's one of the things that you guys have really driven home, is the fact that, you know, if you're a sponsor or you're, you know, average Joe, like Joe Rengel, who comes up from Colorado to fish, I mean, you're fishing and everybody's on the same level.
They are, and, you know, there's some people that get real serious about it, and they'll spend, you know, a good portion of the week pre-fishing. But we've talked about this before. It's kind of like planning an elk trip, right? If you don't sign up or you don't put in for your tag and you don't draw, you're probably not going to go, and you're not going to do the big production. But, you know, like Mitch, every year elk hunting, he's got his buddies. They set up wall tents, and they make a big production of it. And it's a planned kind of vacation that's just a fun event. And that's what this is for a lot of people. You'll drive around this lake, and you'll see groups of campers that are all together. And it might be a group out of Douglas, or a group out of Glen Rock, or a group out of Nebraska. But they're all just kind of, they're all hanging out and sharing their own stories. And they don't always share their their honey holes and their fishing.
Their secrets, right?
But sometimes they're throwing cornhole, sometimes they're throwing horseshoes, sometimes they're just hanging around drinking and working on their boats and doing whatever else. But the camaraderie part is hard to overlook because there's just a good group of guys that are really here to. They're not really competing against each other. They're competing against man versus nature. They're really just trying to find where those big fish are.
And they'll sneak up on other people if they're catching big fish too, if they hear.
Well,
But
that is the difference I think with most of these tournament guys is that there's a level of respect, in terms of giving people their space. And we preach that a lot. If you weren't in a spot yesterday and you all of a sudden show up there because that's where the leaders were, that's just not ethical. And most of the guys are pretty good about that. And the ones that aren't usually get their butts chewed by the other guys.
Or they get labeled as tailpipers real quick.
Yeah. And, it is like brothers. Like if you get a bunch of brothers in one room, it's like, hey, I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you, but you're getting a little too close, I'm going to beat you up. Right. I mean, I don't know. Have there been like fist fights?
No, not after 16 years. No, we have never. We've had a couple of yelling matches, I think, and a lot. I mean, it's a big lake. There's a lot of water in Wyoming. These lakes are big. These reservoirs are big, so a lot of them do team up. The guys that are camping together, they share info. But yeah, the guys that aren't teamed up, they definitely protect their area the best they can. But we've never had a.
That's just it. Like there's 145 boats going out, and boat 145, there's a good chance somebody's going to be sitting in his number one spot. You know, but these guys are confident enough in their presentation and what they're doing that they don't only have one spot on the lake. They're going to have 6, 7, 8 different spots that they might rotate through within the course of the day. And so, people don't get too excited or worked up about it because even if I told you where the best fish that I caught all week are out of, you still got to go catch them. Right. And the presentation that I'm using, the plastics I'm using, the presentation in general, you may not be able to duplicate it. And even if you do, doesn't mean the fish are going to bite at that time. Doesn't mean that for me either.
Yeah, it's hard to fish another man's bite. You got to have confidence in it for sure.
One of the things, Brian, you and I have fished Glendo multiple times, and I've fished with other people, and we'll go to the same spot, and we don't catch the same every time. And that's kind of the weird part. The guys have been fishing all week. It was cold and rainy and nasty, and now for the weekend it's going to be sunny and beautiful. I mean, it's going to be a little different out there, I think.
Well, the playing field definitely leveled up for a lot of guys that couldn't take the time off from work this week because the guys that did take all week off, Monday they're fishing in the rain, Tuesday they're fishing in the rain and snow, Wednesday and Thursday they had super high winds. There was a lot of guys that just never even made it to the lake. And those conditions are going to play out a lot different than this weekend's conditions, where the highs the last couple of days were upper 30s and low 40s. Now we're going to be looking at upper 60s, low 70s. So the fish are going to transition with the conditions stabilizing a little bit. It's going to be anyone's game at this point.
So we are here at the Wyoming Walleye Stampede at Glendo, and I'll tell you, it's going to be a great weekend now that the rain has moved out. Stick around, and of course, if you miss this show, on demand at the My Country 95.5 app.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
The Wyoming Walleye Stampede is here opening their season. Mark and Alicia Green, you guys just took over the marina here. The B&A Marina is now what it's called, and it's been quite the adventure, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been quite the adventure.
So you guys are really revamping everything. You're coming in and kind of cleaning up all the things that other people left behind.
We've went in and opened up the restaurant quite a bit to where we can try and provide for easier access and more service for everybody to be able to come in and enjoy the food that we have to offer. We've revamped the menu. We've got a lot of homemade items that we're starting with. I hope everybody can see it at the tournament here this weekend, is that we really put a lot of love into the food here, and a lot of it's made here on site. We have a smoker up here this weekend. We're excited for the summer and see everybody in here, because everybody comes in and you can tell by the look on their face that they have not been in the store since we've taken over.
Oh, yeah.
And just when they walk in, you can see it, and then they have the food and they enjoy it, and then they're back the next day. So we just really hope that the love keeps spreading to everybody, and they keep coming in.
You guys have big plans for the rest of the summer. I mean, this is really your first outing. The Walleye Stampede is the one that's like, hey, we're going to make it a big event first. We're not going to start off slow. We're going big.
Yes, absolutely. This has been a big launch for our business, and we're really excited to do different specials each week and build on top of what we've worked really hard to even put out this weekend, just being our second weekend open.
Now, I just want to make it clear that you don't have to have a walleye tournament. You don't have to whatever. You could come out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday morning for breakfast. If you're leaving the lake, you guys are open.
That's correct. Yep, we are open. We're really striving to keep the store open. There's been some times where, it's been cold and rainy and it hasn't been busy, but we're still here and we're open just because we want people to know that we have the guaranteed hours that you can come here and still get a hot meal and not have to worry about getting the kids across town or an hour back home, or if you just want to come in and get something just because you feel like having an easy night and still good food, we're here.
So was it a little more difficult than you thought from the beginning? I mean, you guys really just started this. You took over at the end of March, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. My husband, he's a dreamer, and he is just so funny. When he decides he wants to do something, he really hooks his claws into it and goes for it. And sometimes it is a little bit more than what we bite off, but life would be boring if it wasn't that way. But yes, it's been a lot, and we're here and we're working and we're loving it.
It's awesome. Well, you guys are doing a great job. It's your first big outing, and I can't wait to see what's happening in the future. Being a marina here in Glendo, you can come out all summer long. It's going to be a great year here at the lake. Come on out and check them out. Of course, you guys are open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we're open 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. And then Monday is 7 a.m. until around noon there. See if we have a big lunch crowd, we'll stay open for that for sure. And then the general store will be open, but those are our dedicated restaurant hours for people to know that they have a hot meal ready.
Right. Okay. Well, come on out and check them out, guys. We appreciate it, and good luck and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors with Drew Kirby. If you have a question, want to make a comment, or have an idea for a show topic, message us on the My Country mobile app. Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.